my major challenge has always been verbal. If you see, my percentile was also not the best in verbal. It was better in quant and DI. But initially, I think all three sections were really tough for me. Then right before the day of my test, I like 2 days before my test, I got really sick. So for the next 2 days, I just didn't have any focus at all. And then I was just extremely nauseous. So even on the day of the exam, I had like a lot of I had a fever and all of that.
Yeah,
And
because
even the course, honestly, I think because it was the intensive batch, there were classes every alternate day.
right.
So because there were classes, it just put me in that zone where even though I know that I miss a day, I still have like a goal to reach or a goal to achieve. So I put in more hours to reach that goal. So I think that helped.
It's a How are you doing? A massive stellar performance, a GMAT 735, 100 percentile. Please tell me. Amazing, amazing. What a stellar achievement, I would have to tell you. Look at that score beaming through a total score of 100 percentile, quad 97, verbal 90th, and data insight 99 percentile. Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling good. Was expecting a little bit more, honestly, on the exam day, but this itself, I think I'm very happy with the score.
Extraordinary journey, I would say. I mean, looking at this score. So before we, talk more about the exam point of view, and we'll come back again to understanding how many mistakes happened or how many good things happened in the exam. Just tell
Yeah.
me about yourself, Vaishnavi. Tell me a little bit background about how did this entire thing started. Was there any kind of inspiration why you took this up? What really caused you to take up MBA journey and the GMAT journey, and how did you come through or come across Sandeep Gupta and Top Percent?
Yeah. So I'm a graduate from BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus. I graduated in 2021. I think that's in the year of my graduation, that's the first time that I came across top 1%. So at that time, I was thinking of potentially applying for an MBA sometime in future, and I wanted to get GMAT out of the way very early.
You're right.
So initially, when I was looking at all the coaching institutes that were available, I think only top 1% kind of resonated with me because that is what I was aiming for. I was aiming for a 99 percentile. And there was no other, I think, coaching institute that was in some sense pitching that. So most of them were celebrating 96 percentiles or 95 percentiles, and that was not my aim. So I wanted some coaching institute that aimed higher. Uh, I took the GMAT I took the GMAT course in 21, but for some reason, like I just started my work life and then it just didn't work out. And then I paused it for a little while. I was also scared of giving the GMAT because there were a lot of nerves around that whether I'll actually achieve it. It's okay to aim the 99th percentile, but then I was just nervous about whether I'll actually get it. So I never really wrote the GMAT, never even gave a mock at that time. But then I gathered my courage last year because my MBAs are getting closer, and then I want to do an MBA in 26. So in 26. So I wanted to get GMAT away before my admissions process started. I didn't want to juggle between the two. So last year I started my attempt again. Like I took the course again, but then I wasn't able to do it even then because we suddenly had a very important project and then there was no work, like there was no work-life balance at all, and I just didn't have the time. But this time I really sat on it, like in June. The intensive batch, I think, was for people like me who don't have the discipline for GMAT, I think. But then, yeah, so finally in June, I really decided that this time I'm just going to give it and I'm just going to get it over with. So I took the course. Honestly, for a person like me, this approach to the course really worked, where while the classes were not centered around teaching, they were centered around like just practice. That is what I think I needed the most. And it worked out in the end, I guess.
Let's just probably dive deeper into the preparation itself, which is, could you just describe your entire GMAT preparation point for this focus edition, the score that you got rather, if
Yeah.
there were any key twists, challenges, or the triumphs, like essentially, overcoming a certain challenge in through the preparation for each of the section, you can describe it.
Yeah. So honestly, my preparation just started this year. The years before, even though I took the course, I never really did any prep.
Right.
So when I started it this year, I think my major challenge has always been verbal. If you see, my percentile was also not the best in verbal. It was better in quant and DI. Uh, but initially, I think all three sections were really tough for me, primarily because there was a lot of discussion going around the data insight section and how it is extremely tough. So that kind of got me really anxious because I wasn't able to finish things on time. And then the reason why all three sections were tough is because I just wasn't able to concentrate after a particular point of time. So even though I was able to get the concepts and able to solve a problem, it just was taking too much time, or after a point of time, I just wasn't able to sit. And that is something that I discussed with Sandeep sir also in the class. And he kind of gave tips as to how to overcome that and how to like get through it, which worked in the end. But overall, I'd say the biggest challenge was verbal. But in terms of quant and DI, I just was focusing on practicing a lot more so that I make as fewer mistakes as possible on the actual test day,
Right.
because I don't want to make silly mistakes. Yeah.
So if you could just even highlight on that tip, what did you really go back to your board, or boardroom, or rather, workspace, and rework on the entire thing? What was that tip that you really had you taken back? And if there is any particular materials or content that's really helped you and stood out during your preparation?
Yeah, almost until like the very end. Like 90, I'd say 95% of my preparation was from the portal itself, the official, like the top 1% portal. I did all my mocks from there. I did all my the drive where all the like study material is there. I used all of that. So the tip was essentially, I didn't really think of it in that sense until Sandeep sir pointed out to me. It was just that when I was preparing, after say an hour or so, my mind would just go numb and I just wasn't able to concentrate on any question, even though it was the easiest question of all. So there I'd start getting a little bit panicky because I wasn't able to concentrate. I'd just do a lot of mistakes. So what Sandeep sir pointed out was that irrespective of whether your answer is going to be correct or not, I think I had to look at it with a calm approach. It didn't matter how much time I was taking when I was practicing. So he told me to like slowly read through the question again. It didn't matter if I took like 2x the time, as long as I got like the answer in the end. So that kind of helped me regulate myself. So during practice, initially I was taking a lot of additional time to do the questions, because after that 1 hour mark, I was spending that extra time being calm and like solving these questions. But after a point of time, it became like a muscle memory, and then the speed automatically came. So that just that idea of sitting through these long sittings that he recommends, which is like around 6 hours of like continuous prep without a break and all of that. At the same time, just focusing on sitting over there and regulating your mind and just like attempting these questions was, I think was really helpful.
Super,
Yeah.
super. Just tell me something during your preparation. You mentioned last year when you tried, or even before that, something or the other, the external factors. You're in your case, professional thing, new projects kicked in, and so you had to take a break and, or rather, put your preparation to stall. So, was there any case this time also around? And if at all, how did you balance and juggle between the two? How many hours were you, making putting in every single day since the time you started your preparation until the very end?
Yeah, so this time I didn't have that because I just like I'm between jobs, so I decided to give my GMAT right now. So I got lucky in that sense. But initially I got really sick for a long time, I think for an entire month or so. So there I just wasn't able to give time. But then my target was to at least give my attempt, finish like whatever I had to do with GMAT by the end of like by the beginning of September. So for me, then I had only 2 months of prep left, which is like July and August. And while I was doing that, I think one key challenge was to cram up all that I had to study within those 2 months. So on one day, on a given day, there were days where I put 12 hours a day, and there were days where I just did an hour or so. I think that is something that I told myself, that it's okay if I take lesser hours on one day as long as I'm able to pull through on the other days. So I think that it was a sinusoidal base. On Sundays it was like around 12 hours. On some days it was around 1. But on an average, I did like 4 hours of prep every day.
So it
That
was
was.
very much more of a self-motivation that you did put every day. Or were there any inner circle or your support system who kind of just kept pushing as well? So anything like
Yeah.
that that happened?
I have a really like my best friend's my roommate. So there was constant support from their end. I think during that entire phase of preparation, there was constant motivation from them, from my friends, that I, even though on some days I'd lose confidence, that maybe I'd not be able to do it because sometimes GMAT can get a little bit overwhelming. I think the support system was there. My ex-colleagues, my friends, my roommate, all of them were always very, very supportive and very present.
Yeah,
And
because
even the course, honestly, I think because it was the intensive batch, there were classes every alternate day.
right.
So because there were classes, it just put me in that zone where even though I know that I miss a day, I still have like a goal to reach or a goal to achieve. So I put in more hours to reach that goal. So I think
Right.
that helped.
It's simply because today's world, right? Distraction is something that is overpowering, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
of course, Sandeep does in everything that he could to keep you motivated, to keep you really focused. But then sometimes, like you said, it gets overwhelming, and unless you have the point where you get distracted, if there's somebody who would just slap you back into the track, that
Yeah,
you are.
yeah, yeah.
That's the reason why it's extremely important to have that kind of a circle also. So let's just fast track into the exam, the showdown, which is the exam time. So What did you do, especially around the mocks, practice? Just take us into the heart of your entire day, the exam experience, and just before the exam experience, what all did you do in terms of maybe mocks, in terms of the test experience, all of it?
Yeah. So I actually gave 2 attempts in my GMAT. One I gave in August, and one I gave in September. So I was unlucky in both of them, and I'll explain that. But as of the exam practice, I think it started when the course ended. Sandeep sir had given us a test, a diagnostic test of sorts to write. And when we had written that, he had given us a clear plan as to what are the next steps. So in my mock test, on the top portal, I had initially gotten a 615, I think. Yeah, a 615 or a 635. I'm not sure which one of the two. But it was not a very happy score. But he wasn't really, I think he was very motivating in that sense, where he explained clear actionables as to how do the next few days or how do the days before your test prep really look like. So I knew that there were some concepts that that even though I knew the concepts of, I just wasn't very fluent with them. So there was I just sat for days, like maybe 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day, and just like finished every single question that I could find in that concept. So that next time that I get a similar question in the test day, I wouldn't be like, it wouldn't take me by surprise. So my score improved. Like the first official mock that I gave, I got a 735. So that I think put my confidence a little bit higher. That is when I decided to take the first attempt in August. But then right before the day of my test, I like 2 days before my test, I got really sick. So for the next 2 days, I just didn't have any focus at all. And then I was just extremely nauseous. So even on the day of the exam, I had like a lot of I had a fever and all of that. So I gave my attempt. I got a 715 in that. And even though in my mocks, I think my highest was around 755, it was like way lower than that. So I wanted to give another attempt. So then I just sat and just did the questions in the portal, just attempted a couple of mocks and then gave the exam. But few key things that I did, and that is what Sandeep sir also recommended, was just take the mock test and the time, like on the time of your exam. So both my exams were in the afternoon slot because I'm generally more comfortable in the afternoon slot. And it was at 1 to 3. So because it was at 1 to 3, I micromanaged my whole day. So I wouldn't eat lunch until 3 o'clock every single day so that I don't get hungry on the actual test day. So even now, I think my food cycle is still running in that same schedule. So all my mocks for almost like 7-8 days before the first exam, I gave mocks every single day between 1 to 3 so that I just get into the groove of practicing. That was my only practice, like for the last 1 week, where I was just giving mocks and just practicing a few additional questions wherever I was going wrong and all of that. And on the day of the test also, because it was just the same environment and like the same mindset in my head that it's that 1 to 3 slot. I have the schedule in my head of how that 1 to 3 looks like. I know how I give my exam and I know how I set my time during the test also. Like I have a particular plan for quant, I had a particular plan for DI and particular for verbal. So all of that just worked out. And I think that repetition kind of helped me on the test day, on both the days, honestly.
Right. So on the exam day, you said when you obviously looked at the score, you hoped you would have gotten better score. That's
Yeah.
But tell me when you were looking at each of the section, and what was the order of the section that you actually took? You please let us know, and why did you choose that? And what were you expecting? Were there any surprises? Were there any challenges? And did you run out of time just on the exam day? This is the last attempt that you gave.
Yeah. In the last attempt also, I kind of got sick before the exam. I had food poisoning, so I was vomiting the night before.
Oh,
So I
no.
knew that I wasn't going in my 100% in the exam, but that's fine. The order of my exam was quant, DI, and verbal. And between DI and verbal, I took a break. And this was the recommended order by Sandeep sir also. It works for me because my strongest section is quant, and I wanted to start quant with my mind fresh because then it just gets my head working. And then because DI is very similar to quant in that way, I just it's just an extension of that. And once I finish that section, I thought I could just take a breather and then start verbal with a fresh mind. So that was the order that I was following. On most days, even in my first exam, I didn't really face a time crunch, but this time I did. Even in the quant section, I was able to finish 5 minutes before time, which for me was a little bit of a time crunch because generally I have more time to review all my questions in case I am doing a silly mistake or something. But for DI and verbal, I had to stretch to the last minute. So there, I think I lost my confidence a little bit, and that really impacted my performance because that pacing was not something that I was expecting on the actual test day. I was expecting myself to be really faster and have time to review these questions. So that way, I think the test day was a bit different from my actual practice sessions. As of the verbal section, I think that is where I was expecting more in the exam. But what had happened is that I think I got really underconfident by the end of the exam. So I went and I reviewed and edited my questions. And due to that underconfidence, Sandeep sir keeps telling that be confident on the day of the exam. I should just listen to him. I didn't. So in that underconfidence, I edited 2 of my questions because I thought that maybe I was wrong. And I edited both of them from correct to incorrect.
Oh no, no. Okay,
So that is one of the reasons why the score also dropped. So I was kind of beating myself about it after the main, like the score sheet came a little bit later.
Right.
But yeah, on the day of the test, I think what I went in with was a lot of confidence and just like a bit of this calmness. I got a little flustered by the end of it, but that did really help, I think, for the first 2 sections for
Alright.
Quant and Data. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So how many did you end up getting wrong in each of these sections? If I think maybe I can.
Yeah. So for Quant, I had 1 wrong. For DI, I think I had 3 wrong.
Right.
And for verbal, I had 6 wrong.
Right.
Because yeah.
Otherwise it would have been 4. And the other bit is that, you know, when you get as like in comparison, if you get if it was opposite, like even Quant, had you gotten 2, 3 wrong, you would have gotten a bad percentile compared to verbal. The percentile
Yeah.
differently. So, you know, again, quite something that I wanted to ask. You took up the live classes. Now, what do you have to really tell about what are the experiences, especially with Sandeep sir's tips? And him teaching is one thing, but these tips that you mentioned that really helped you, and how did it help you correct? Had you not taken the live classes, what difference would it have made you?
I think one of the things that really does help me, I don't know if it helps the others or not, is that in the class when he's explaining an answer or when he's explaining how to like solve a question, a lot of times he's mostly just talking about his own thought process as to like why this should move, why this should be eliminated, or why this should work and all of that. And he's doing that at the exact pacing that would be there in the actual exam day. So how that really helped me was that I was able to think in that exact speed or in that exact way that he was doing. I was able to like mimic that. So for me, live classes were really helpful in that sense because I knew that I had taken, like I did a question in a particular approach and I used a particular thought process to get that answer. Irrespective of whether that my answer was correct or wrong, his approach was different. And that difference in my approach made me realize that there is something like this is something that I can look at. So in that sense, I think live classes really helped. And in tips and tricks also, I think in the last couple of sessions, he really focused on strategies. So like I said, for me, that sitting for long hours was a big problem and it was like a genuine problem. And then that got fixed. And then a lot of people also come in with their specific doubts. And then when you listen to them and his solutions for that, you learn from that as well. Because that may not be your primary problem, but that may be like your secondary problem or your like the tertiary problem or something like that. And that will still help you regulate your entire test prep based on that. So I think in that sense, the live classes were really helpful because he's there to support you when you need it.
Right. I have to ask you this because you were a part of this intensive batch. One of our student, he got the score while he was still in the intensive batch.
Yeah.
So, Mukul Gupta. So,
Yeah.
how did you feel? Because it's definitely very inspirational. He's like the classes are just about to end. He's got the score already. He's got a 745 then.
Yeah.
So I think even a live class kind of motivates that, you know, when you are sitting and listening.
Yes, he did attend one of the classes to tell about his experience. And I think that really, really helped because I think it just like when someone in your batch itself gets a score, I think you're just able to connect with them. You're able to understand what they've done and what they're going to do. And it kind of gives you that confidence that, yeah, even you can do it. I think that was one of the biggest things because like I told you, even when I started my prep, my biggest problem was confidence. So here, he like showing examples like this and even Sandeep sir, maybe someday even though my accuracy wasn't high, like Sandeep sir would give you that confidence that you're there. Like you don't have to like worry, even though it's not to you, like he wouldn't point out at a person and say it, but that motivation or that confidence would remain like during that process through these live classes and all of that. But yeah, like Mukul, honestly, that put me on track a little bit because he had written the exam, he had gotten a score. So I was like, yeah, now it's time for us also to buckle up and just write our exams. Yeah.
What a fantastic insights that you've given so far. It's like just truly, you know, any student right now, I can tell you, would relate to all whatever you said. So if you have to now summarize the golden do's and don'ts, what would you say, Vaishnavi, for someone who's just starting out, right? What if they obviously the reason why this entire preparation took so long was you didn't really make time, but the time that you made, time for the GMAT exam. So that lasted like 3 months. So what would you say the list would be like, do's and the don'ts?
I think the primary do is that believe in yourself when you're doing the prep because GMAT is like conceptually it's not really that tough an exam, but if you get lost in your head, it is going to be really, really tough. Like a question can be extremely easy and extremely hard, just depending on how much belief you have in yourself. So I think that is one. And the second thing is, if there is like, if someone's taking the top course, if there is a study plan, just stick to it. There is no need to like overthink it or anything. Just like as long as you're just practicing the study plan, I think by the end of it, I was done with 95% of my prep. I just had to give my mocks and just like brush up a couple of rough edges. So I think just follow through that study plan. Those are the two big do's in my head. And even every single concept, right? Like that's just a double click on the study plan. But like every single concept that Sandeep sir tells you, whether it is especially for verbal, just follow all of them blindly, because irrespective of what happens on the test day, that is your fallback. Like you know that you have this concept in your head and you just have to like sit and solve it. So I think those are like a couple of do's. A couple of don'ts is just don't, like, for me, I think one thing that kind of affected me in the middle is that I just went all over the place and was just looking at like different kinds of prep and like different kinds of things that other people were doing and just kind of doubting my own preparation. So I think that I shouldn't have done, and that I don't think anyone needs to do. Your preparation and your journey is very, very unique to you. You don't have to like look at other people or compare yourself with other people. You do the best that you can, and I think that is what is important. So just like avoid comparing yourself and avoid judging your competence based on say one test score or one mock score or one attempt that you give on your portal or anything like that. Just like push through and just practice, because in the end what matters is what you do on the test day. Everything until then is just practice. So yeah.
Amazing thought. I would just say this is like we have to be celebrating brilliance. You know, whatever you said are going to be incredible for anyone who is listening to. Again, a big congratulations. Even though if it's not, you know, from Sandeep sir today, but I'm going to say on his behalf and the entire team's behalf that, you know, big congratulations on that stupendous score, like such a brilliant score that right there, 735. Although you think it is less, but it's 100 percentile score right there. It just opens up all the avenues to any of the schools that you would like to apply from M7, and even avenues to apply with scholarships, right? So I hope you are you hoping to apply this year itself, Vaishnavi?
No, I'll be applying next year.
So
So
yeah, you
I want
mentioned
to
2026 intake, right?
yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot to do. I would really love to be connected because you have a great chain of thought and you know, and just wonderful to be seeing what you will be doing, and hopefully that the admit also comes through. You know, maybe you should get like you should be spoiled for choices, right? All M7 should happen to you, and I think you know, I have a feeling that it will happen to you. And we'll stay connected. Big congratulations and thank you for choosing over and over again top and percent
Yeah, three
for this.
times, third time's the charm.
Yes, over and over again for the top and percent, and you know, really grateful. I mean, this score truly validates what sir is teaching and sir is doing, and you know, I'm wishing you all the very best, Vaishnavi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Good luck. Have a good evening. Bye bye. Take care.
Yes, you too. Bye bye.